like the world is going in a very wrong direction food wise, and
Uh-huh.
mostly it's about the organic food
Uh-huh.
and regenerative agriculture. So the focus is
Uh-huh.
always that.
Very good. Okay. Well, you're about ready to start, I think, huh?
Yeah, we are a minute. Yeah, in about a minute, and Mark will let us know when we will be going live.
Great. Great.
So Mark, yeah.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Aribali. I know this is not the usual voice you hear usually, but Wayne has some severe health issues right now, and he missed a team call, which he rarely does, and we got to know that he's in bed rest, so he was not able to host this webinar. The team decided that I should be doing this. So we have a very special guest with us, Paul Muller from Full Belly Farm today, and we will be getting into that interview soon. If you can hear me, please put some ones in the chat box or in the question area, or tell us like where you are from, where you guys are joining us from, and we will be just getting into this interview soon. Mark, everything is all good from your side, right? You're recording? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. So we will just get into this interview. So, hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I'm really excited about this. I think I told you I love your Instagram page. I love your website. It's so colorful. So we will be getting into your how you guys like started this. But please introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, what circumstances you grew up in, and what led you to be where you are today.
I'm Paul Muller. I've grown up here in California, and was born in the Salinas Valley, and my family's been farming since I was born. First in the dairy business. My father was a dairyman in Salinas Valley, and then in San Jose. From there, we moved to the Woodland area, which is near Sacramento, kind of the Central Valley of California. I grew up there on a farm that changed from dairy to being diversified agriculture. Farming is good. I think for a lot of folks who've been in all their life, it's kind of bred in your bone, and it's something that I felt was a form of healthy and right livelihood. So, but we years ago felt like we wanted to look at agriculture a little differently because of myriad of issues that we can certainly talk about. But we now farm about 500 acres here. There's a farm partnership that exist with my wife and myself. We have two sons and one of my son's wife. We're part of the partnership, and we have two other partners. We've been farming on this piece of ground since 1985. It's a wonderful deep soil set in the Capay Valley of California, which is west of Sacramento in the foothills that divide as part of the coastal range. And we're lucky to be here. It's a wonderful place, hot climate. We have temperatures in the summertime that get up to, can be up to 110, 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and
Wow.
at the hottest days. But it's a good place for growing tomatoes and melons. It's high in the watershed, so it's pretty clean in terms of exposure to pesticides or other things that other farms might be plagued with. So we grow a wide variety of crops, and we can certainly talk about everything we grow in the seasons that we grow in.
No, yeah, I was going through that, and I think you are growing a lot of things that you should be proud of. So I think, yeah, we will get. But you said like 500 acres. That's like a big farm. How many workers you're managing right now for daily operations?
Well, so we have about 80 workers here every day, and they're doing everything from picking and packing to doing the field work to plant cover crops and get new ground ready for the upcoming crops. Here we're able to produce pretty much 4 seasons of the year. We do take a couple of weeks off around Christmas and New Year's when it's our coldest time. But for the most part, to keep ourselves, our cash flow healthy, and to keep our workers employed, we try to produce year-round. So we're producing seasonally, providing crop to about a 1,200-member CSA, to stores and restaurants in the Bay Area and to wholesale accounts. And we try and do that year round, so we have year-round employment.
Perfect. So you wholesale and you retail also, right?
We do, yeah. So we are we years ago decided we needed to diversify from the model that most farmers were kind of subject to, and so we built a farm that basically is diverse biologically and diverse ecologically, has a really diverse crop mix that we can market over the whole year, and where we can diversify our markets also. So our market mix is probably about 15% goes to CSA, that's a box a week, to about 12 to 1,500 households. Okay. We do 15% goes to small stores and restaurants, independent grocers and restaurants. Another 15% or so goes to farmers markets. So we do 3 or 4 farmers markets in the Bay Area a week, and the rest goes to wholesale. So we have a pretty diverse mix there where we can begin to manage where we sell when we have a crop that's either long or short, and decide what a fair price is, and try and get that fair price for our product.
Beautiful, beautiful. So is it all organic? Like, can you just tell us like what crops the farm is producing right now, and do you farm, like, is it all organic farming?
Yeah, so going back to that, when we started, we made a commitment to eliminate toxins from the environment, in the ground we were farming. So we became organic farmers early on. We've been farming organically since about 1982, and we've not, we've upheld that principle. So we've been organic since 1982, not had to vary from that course, and so. That came from a point in time where we had to learn how to grow organic carrots. We had to learn about organic fertility, when we had to learn about cover crops and rotations and all the pieces that you need to think about in a different way than when you're farming in a conventional sense. And so we became familiar with a lot of crops over time. We have a pretty wide mix here. We probably grow 80 different vegetable crops, and we probably have of that 500 acres, we have about 12 to 15 acres in walnuts. We have about 40 acres of almonds. We have stone fruit that we start picking in June and pick until October. We have apples that we have small apples here. We do a lot of flowers, and you can see a lot of flowers in some of these photos. So cut flowers are a main crop here on the farm. And then we try and grow really high quality vegetables in an organic system. We've developed a lot of folks who feel like they can taste the difference in what we grow. And I think when you put it in the ground and you grow healthy ground, and really manage your soil's biological health, you end up with food that tastes better. And so our marketing has been about growing things that are beautiful and that taste great, and that are seasonally appropriate.
I can see that. So which crop you're most proud of from Full Valley Farm, and are you known for anything in particular?
Oh my gosh. I think you're proud. I mean, I went to the farmer's market last week in Palo Alto. It's one of the markets we've done now for almost 40 years. That market, when you set out a display that has everything from broccoli and asparagus and beets and cabbage and radishes and salad mix and lettuce and turnips and the potatoes that we have. Those are all things that were on our table this last week, along with we do have some citrus here. We have a small window in the winter where we can harvest some citrus. We're just about right on the edge where we're not too cold to do some citrus. We have all the dried goods that we do, so we add value to just about anything we can, and so all of our seconds become products that are dried or they're made into jams and jellies. We have those that were on the table. One part of our enterprise has a kitchen now that my son Ammon, my oldest son, and his wife are running, and they do everything from pizza dough with using our wheat to tea cakes, right, that were on the table this last week. So a wide variety of things. And the idea with that, and those 500 acres, is that we have enough land to rotate crops on, where we can grow healthier crops, but also that we have diversity, so that no one battling a low price for broccoli, say, won't be the thing that makes or breaks our year. So diversity is bred into our bone, as you say.
Beautiful. So, like, you do all of this. So, this is only like sold locally, or you have to try something global also? So, only
Well, you know,
only
we've
local.
try and keep our marketing fairly local. We market about probably 95% of what we grow into the San Francisco Bay Area region. Excuse me. And we do our CSA is within is regionally. You probably don't go more than about 100 miles or 110 miles for our CSA. So I would say that most of our crops we try and keep as local as possible. We early on ran into some problems selling things far away to wholesalers who were in Los Angeles or further, and there were a couple of times we didn't get paid. So it was a painful lesson that brought us closer to home, where we feel like we can have a stronger direct relationship with our customers, where they can know us, know who we are, and know our values. And that's something we've worked on for many years.
That's very important. So I have a question here from the audience, and he says that, how do you ensure biological diversity, and why is this important to your farm?
So how do we ensure biological diversity? And the second part of the question was?
Why is this important to your farm?
Oh my gosh. We've tried to design a farm that is a real mix of areas where we can harbor biological diversity. So biological diversity is not just birds or different types of crops for growing tree crops or row crops or incorporating livestock into the farm, which is something we do. But we see biological diversity as an essential piece of creating a real system and looking at our farm as more of an organism than just a place that produces food. So, and I think over time we've had people come to the farm and do different studies, and they've studied everything from dung beetles and what are incidents of dung beetles are in our field to the carbon that we have at depth or the bird life that we have here. And our farm had, with the University of Washington study, had some of the highest diversity of bird species that they found on any farm that they studied, coming from Washington down to California. So we feel we try to grow things that create insect diversity. So we have beneficial insects here. We support bats that are our nighttime foragers for codling moths and things like that. I mean, if we can employ bats, for example, to do our insect control at nighttime for codling moth and things that might create a navel orange worm or an insect problem for apples or walnuts, for example. They're employed for pretty cheap. All you have to do is find a place for them here and build a house, and they'll begin to work at night for you. And they work a lot cheaper than a lot of our other laborers here on the farm. And it's a perfect sequencing of biology for our needs. And so all we have to do is find a place to foster that. It's the same with insect ecology and pollinator diversity. We have cover crops right now that are teeming. Actually, you can go out and see in one small area, see 10 to 15 ladybugs. And they're there because we've created pollen and nectar for them to be there. But it's also these fields of mustard flowers that we're going to soon turn in to soil are a place that we are providing pollen and nectar for bees and for lacewings and other insects that can work in our fields and provide us with beneficial insects to control aphids, for example, on some of our greens. So biological diversity is again, part of the design here at the farm. And we find many, many ways that it pays off.
Creating the perfect ecosystem, I would say.
Well, we are far too dense as human beings to understand what a perfect ecosystem is as we manipulate this farm, but we're trying to do our best.
In my opinion, whatever we try our best to do, that's the perfect we we get better
Uh-huh.
day by day. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think whatever we can. I have seen, like I told you, I'm a city boy, but I went to like village twice and thrice, and every time they are trying to do something better, and it's perfect. It's perfect.
Sure. Sure.
So that's my definition of perfect. Like whatever you can achieve, that's perfect for that day.
Yeah,
So
if you do
yeah,
it with the right intention, I think there is a
exactly.
perfection in that. You can see on the picture there. So we do grow flowers. So this is um, uh, an example of a summer field here. You can see the diversity in that field, and it's really gratifying. So the diversity also satisfies the soul of the farmer when you can walk out there and see honeybees that are out there foraging, and lots of them, and bumblebees, and insect ecology out there, that it's there because you provided the pollen and nectar for them to be there. So
Yeah,
it is it's also, this whole piece is not this functionally wonderful, but it's also gratifying to have a farm that where there is beauty, and the beauty is created by your intention and attention to details, and getting those things planted.
yeah, truly said. I think. Okay, so I have another question here. So it says, do you use compost to fertilize this large of a farm?
Yes, we do. Excuse me. It's our primary strategies for fertility management is uh, we do use a lot of cover crops, and there are probably some pictures of cover crops around. This is an example of a sheep that are eating down a cover crop. So we do incorporate livestock into the farm as part of our um, um, cycle. We have about 300 head of sheep on the farm, and they are browsers. They finish a field. When it's done, they will go and turn it over. We'll also do that mechanically, but we do use the sheep. And at the same time, they're fertilizing and providing some biological diversity there. We do use compost. We buy in a good deal of compost. We export a lot of nutrients out, so we buy in a compost that we're now turning and finishing so that it reflects our the type of compost we want to be applying to the ground. We're increasingly playing with different biological amendments, things that we affect the microorganisms, or things that we can use to enhance the vigor of the seed by providing the right ecological community or biological community around that seed when it germinates. So we're playing with things that enhance the ability of the plant to withstand disease and emerge vigorously by using different biological amendments. So we're trying a number of strategies, but the cornerstones have been compost, cover crops, and then our livestock rotations there.
Mm. So, so what is the biggest challenge you're facing in your role business right now, and how are you tackling it?
Well, so I would say that this year, California is particularly challenged with water. We are have this. I think it's been the drought that we're in here in California has been characterized as one of the deepest droughts in the last 1,800 years, which I
Wow.
don't have a lot of perspective on, but it's certainly been very dry. Last year, our rainfall was about, here at the farm, was about 6 inches. So our wells, and we live on a creek that drains Clear Lake the central coastal range, and another reservoir. There was no or very little water released in that creek, so we had little access to that water. So adjusting to a drier environment, adjusting to some real fluctuations in weather it's been pretty challenging. We had
It,
about
it,
a month ago, we had a 22-degree night, which is just about unheard of in the whole year. That was a bubble of cold air that came over, and basically we lost all of our almonds and a lot of our stone fruit in one night. So
wow.
the challenges of adjusting to the swings in weather that may come with climate change, or just this particular time we're at, is a particular challenge. We also have a generational change. I'm at 69 years old. Our kids are coming into the business and doing different things. So we have just continually think about how we make the generational change work here on the farm. But
So
I'd
how
say
old are your
that
kids? How old are your kids, and when they kind of started like chipping in?
they're 30, 32, 34, and 36. Um, they are, three of them are here on the farm, and one is a teacher who's not here on the farm. But our children all have different enterprises here on the farm that they start out with. And you see the flowers. My daughter Hannah does a lot of
I
flowers.
saw, yeah, I saw that on the website that she came up with full belly flower. So
Yeah,
that's a new
so she
place.
does. She's our florist and works with my wife Drew, who loves flowers. And so we have about we plant about I'd say 30 acres of flowers a year, and we can produce flowers from um, about early March until November, and then we dry a lot of those flowers, and in the wintertime, our crew that does flowers is making dried wreaths and finishing the value of those flowers by arranging them as dried flowers. So there's a crew of about 8 that have year-round employment, planting, tending, harvesting, drying, and then arranging dried flowers, and making both fresh bouquets and dry bouquets. So the flowers have become a piece that are, just an example of how you can make a year-round enterprise in our climate here, by adjusting kind of the way you're doing things and making that part of the design. So there are challenges, I think our kids are meeting those challenges with some new eyes, and we think that given their smarts and our adaptability, that we can meet challenges going forward.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I think this is the question I think I have asked everyone. I have seen Wayne ask everyone because it was I think, a truth basically. So how has the pandemic affected your business basically? Sometimes it's sensitive, but yeah. Uh, how
Um,
did you guys any had effects for that or no?
well, I mean, uncertainty is always um, difficult to deal with, and then when you have a crew of 80, the potential, excuse me, pardon about the potential of having something that um, someone coming in with COVID and then impacting the whole crew is pretty significant. Our food safety policy also has to be something we're very cognizant of in terms of keeping not only our consumers safe but our crew safe. So
Yes.
the years of COVID have been kind of fraught with more uncertainty than normal, mostly about the safety of the folks who are working here. So if someone has COVID, we had a protocol of paying attention to who they were in contact with, testing when testing was available, or isolation in order to figure out whether the infection has gone further than the individual who had it. So we work in terms of crews or teams, and if someone in that team were to test positive for COVID, we had to then may ask that team to stay away until we determined that everybody was safe. So it was a lot of adjusting and a lot of trying to figure it out on the fly while keeping the business open. Our crew needed to work. We needed to work. We needed the cash flow. So we kept producing. There were a few areas of our business, and we actually produced well during those times, and we thankfully avoided any major issues. We did have cases of COVID here, but we were able. No one was seriously ill with COVID over these last 2 years. We did have a part of our business that was more public, so we try and make our farm really open for people to come to. We had to change that and close that down. We had an educational program here at the farm where we had third grade classes, different schools that would come and bring their students here, and they would camp on the farm and pick things on the farm, and basically be young farmers for about 3 or 4 days. And we ended up canceling that program. We had a summer camp that was part of our educational program here with 250 kids a week, or 250 kids a summer, sorry. And we ended up canceling that. So there were a lot of things that we suspended that had been part of what we were doing. We had a big fundraising festival in the fall also called the Hose Down Harvest Festival. And
That was my question. I saw it on your
yeah, well,
website.
that's really fun. We
Things
could
that
talk
you're
about
doing.
that, but we actually have suspended that for the last 2 years also.
Yeah, but for
Um,
last 2 years, but you will be going for this year, right?
well, we're hoping
Everything.
so. We'll see. We still, you know, it's amazing how much work it is, and when you don't do that work, you actually feel like, wow, we had a fall. We were able to do something this fall besides focus on a festival. But the festival is great. You see some pictures there.
Yeah.
And we have a circus that comes. We have about 6,000 people come to a one-day festival here,
Oh,
where folks
wow.
dance, where they kids play. We make a huge draw for it. There's lots of good organic food. We have workshops. We have farm tours, and basically we really try and make the people understand that they can be intimate to a farm and put their feet on the ground and understand a little more clearly what a farm's all about.
Beautiful.
So those are
Yeah, I
some
was
pictures
like,
of our
you know,
festival.
I went through all of them. I was looking at that, and this not kind of gained my attention. The Muller will not be holding. So I think it happened everywhere. Even in here in Pakistan, everything was closed and severe lockdowns. For some businesses it was good, for some it was not. For tech, it was really good, and for us advertisers, basically, I think the digital kind of went okay, but the outdoor media and stuff that was closed down, so it was a big problem for us. So a lot of events, a lot of things kind of stopped because of that. Yeah, affected
Yeah,
a
you
lot of
know,
jobs.
it's an interesting time. I mean, you mentioned that your family has a history of farming back a ways, and
Oh
most
yeah.
people do. You know, they're one generation or two generations removed from the farm, and but they have very little understanding of how farms work,
Hmm.
what conditions farm workers labor under, um, what the realities are in terms of the economics of farming or the political things that need to be considered, or water, or any of those things have somehow been separated politically and socially now,
Yeah.
where most folks have never been to a farm and understand what it's about. We feel it's pretty critical not to be afraid of that connection, but actually to move toward it and bring those people here so that we can make them our customers and we can
Mm.
make them our friends. And along the way, the Hose Down, for example, is a fundraiser that raises money for nonprofits that do good work. And so we can do a lot of things by stretching ourselves a bit and actually trying to bridge the gap of where there's a lack of understanding about the realities of agriculture and get people
True
to the
that.
farm so that they can actually understand it intimately.
Wonderful thoughts. So talking about that, I think you talked about this, but like coming to donations part, I looked on your website and it says a CSA box. And what does usually a single CSA box contains and looks like?
Well, so you can see, I think there were some photos of the boxes there. We sell a $20 box, and we do
This one?
one size box. We've had a CSA since about 90, so it's been long running. We have some people who've been a member of our CSA since 1990, so we have some people who've been members since the start. The CSA really is a program where we can, again, be directly connected to people who know our farm. We have about 12 to 1,500 families, depending on the season, who are getting a box a week. The nice thing about a CSA, for folks who are not familiar, the way we structure ours is we decide what's going in the box. So we put
Okay.
8 to 10 different items in the box every week. And it's things that we feel like we need to put in the box, or that's particularly beautiful at times. So right now our box will have, say, potatoes and beets and carrots. There may be some broccoli that goes into the box in a dark leafy green. We'll have a fresh garlic or a fresh onion that will go in there because those aren't bulbed up and sized up yet. We may put winter squash in the seasons that are appropriate, and then summertime and springtime, the boxes will change and be appropriate to the season. So we're always planting with the idea in mind that we want to have 8 to 10 different items that are going to be available. Our lettuce right now is really beautiful. The price for lettuce at at the wholesale market is fairly high. So we may not put as much lettuce in the boxes and divert some of that to the wholesale market. So the CSA is a way we can kind of move and focus on a market that we're intimate with and people and get to know those folks. CSA also has a newsletter, so we write a newsletter every week about what's going on the farm and try to bridge the knowledge gap. And we can talk about the functional things that go on the farm. We can talk about stories, things that happen during the week. We can talk about politics. And so we have a way to inform our customer base about water policy or about pesticide policy or a particular bill about seeds or whatever. We can begin to use that mechanism of people who are connected to the farm to further inform them about what's going on the farm and how things are working. So, so the CSA is something that we feel is a great tool because we have a direct relationship with customers. Our customers actually prepay us, so the boxes are paid for before they're delivered. So they become a de facto micro lending process where we have money ahead of time rather than behind times. When we send product to a wholesaler, we don't get a check for 2 to 3 weeks. So it changes the direction of capital movement on our farm also. So we really like it.
Great. So you have been running this farm for, I think, a lot of years now. So who are some of your heroes, most influential people in your life who kind of helped you build this farm or played a very vital role in your life regarding this farm or otherwise?
Well, I'm happy to say that anybody who's farming these days after the history of farming is probably a hero, whether they're conventional or organics. And certainly there are some who would be less heroes than others, but it's been a difficult, here in the States, it's been a difficult, let's say 50 or 100 years, I've been around for almost 70, and those have been very, very difficult years. I've watched many, many farm families leave agriculture and many farms fail. And so you learn a lot from even conventional growers about how precise they are and how they look at the world and the tools that they use. But certainly, any organic farmer are people, someone that are my heroes. We had a fellow here in California, amigo Bob Contazano, who was an amazing fellow, who was a good friend, and he basically was an influencer who went out and talked to people about who's doing what and what tools are looking at and how to make better compost and what's happening with soil biology and soil ecology. So he was a hero. I've learned a lot from other farms and by looking at what they do and talking with other farmers who are willing to share their secrets. So I've got a good many farmer friends who are my heroes. There's a lot of smaller farmers who have figured out how to make good life living on a smaller acreage by being very efficient, and those folks I admire tremendously. So maybe my world's a little small, but out in the bigger world, Wendell Berry's work is great. Dave Chapman is a good friend, and I'm on the Real Organic Project board, which is looking to begin to address the USDA's failure to really enforce the organic rule and make sure things are grown in soil and in healthy soil with a soil building program, that animals are well taken care of and have access to pasture. So the Real Organic Project is doing that fight, and the farmers who are involved in that I admire greatly also. So that list could be a long one. There's a lot of people doing great work who I admire, but I'd say some of the ecological influencers are other farmers who are doing great jobs of farming, and you can tell by their farm. Their farms are beautiful, and the produce is exquisite, and it's grown organically, and at the same time they're building and enhancing soil.
So I will say that we have done about 1,800 webinars. I have seen about 800 webinars, I guess. uneaten in the last 4 or 5 years? This is one of the best answers for this question. So, your world is
Uh-huh.
not small. So I guess it's like admiring your fellow people, your fellow like who are doing the same thing. I think that's the the best way of learning more. So,
Sure,
and they become
sure.
heroes. Yeah. So again, yeah, okay, on keeping on the same line. So what do you find most rewarding about your work with Full Belly Farm?
Um, oh my Lord. You know, I'll tell you that I think after a while, when you've been on a farm for 40 years, and there's certainly families that have been on the farms much longer than that. I believe the farm becomes part of your soul. It certainly becomes part of you physiologically because, I'm breathing dust here nearly every day of the year, more in the summer and more in spring. We know the dust is loaded with microorganisms and bacteria and things like that, and you ingest those, you breathe them in. The food you eat is microbially rich. Besides, and it's beyond just having vitamins and minerals. That informs your gut, which can elevate your mood or influence how you think, or I think influence your relationship with place. And so I think after 40 years, what pleases me a lot is to feel like I'm becoming more and more in touch with how to make this farm, how to be here, and how to let the farm show me how its beauty can be expressed. And that changes every year. To be on a farm that's really diverse is to be delighted, I think, nearly every day by things you can see. I can go out and again, I cover crop fields and see a myriad of beneficial insects out there that now I have to come up with a plan for how do I least, respect their diversity out there and not disrupt them so much. But I can be maybe just even remarkably surprised by the diversity that comes here when you build a place for it to be here. When you build a spot where these insects can find a place where there's pollen and nectar and live where they want to live, they'll show up. And
Yeah.
so I'm always amazed at how much life comes to a farm when diversity is a cornerstone of how you design it. So that pleases me a lot. It pleases me to taste a good watermelon this summer, or a good cantaloupe that has incredible flavor, or a tomato that is beautiful and fully flavored. It's really remarkable. We to farm sheep and see how they are attuned and to the ecology of the farm, and how healthy they are by being able to rotate them through this farm. So. And I'm amazed we have farm crew here that have been here a lot. Many of them have been here more than 30 years, and how they've built their lives, stable lives, around having stable jobs, and having a work that is rewarding and where they're paid fairly, and they have health insurance, and they can grow their kids in a way that's secure and safe and regular. So all of those things make me feel really good. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm asking this question late now, but I guess what you have just told. So I think this makes sense. So if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would be?
I think it would be, maybe go slower, observe more. But, you know, um, I guess, it goes along with the last answer is there were the things that I should have known years ago that I wasn't ready to see. And, it would probably be talk more, share more, get more people here, walk on others' farms, observe more with them, more closely. The economics of farming, when we entered it, there were a lot of farmers who were going out of business. It was in the 80s, and that was a very hard time for farming. And we were trying to start a farm at that time. So we were really swimming upstream, where commodity prices were low and farms were failing across the country, and there were farm suicides. And we said we wanted to start a farm at that time. And, we wanted to start a farm where we weren't beholden to a bank. So we figured out how to get cash flow so that we didn't need to borrow money. So we were producing something and money was coming in all the time. I guess if I were to go back, it might be something like um, being being more able to have time to listen and go see other farmers and try and figure out together how we could jumpstart this thing more readily. But when you look back, you realize it was a remarkable journey, and that journey was unique, and there's not much that you can change about it. So I guess I look forward than looking backwards.
Wonderful answer. Wonderful answer. So I was just like going through different things. Looking at these questions. Okay, so yeah, this one I think makes sense now. That what are your next, like where you see yourself in next 10 years in a way, or your farm basically. Uh, there's like I saw some place on your website that it said that you have a long-term goal, like its goal is to integrating farm production with long-term environmental stewardship, such a like. Can you talk about that? Like your long-term goals, basically.
Well, it's really an exciting time in organic agriculture, and perhaps all agriculture. But I think organics, in particular, is beginning to ask new questions, and some of those questions are coming from Australia. Some of them have been questions that other people have dealt with, in traditional agricultural systems. But it's really the question of how do you enhance, what's going on in your soil, and what are some of the keys that you need to pay attention to when you utilize the practices that you do in order to grow food. So, we do till soil, but we think we can actually put a lot of carbon in the soil and have a net positive at the end of the year. We are experimenting with no-till. We're experimenting trying to get the tools to allow us to strip till or minimize our tillage to try and keep cover mulch that we grow in place and keep on top of the ground, so we're protecting the soil from sunlight and temperature, and we can enhance microbial diversity there. We're trying a lot of things, but it's what I think, if I were to say where we're going in the next 10 years, I would like to, and I find it really exciting still, so I would like to be farming in 10 years and be thinking of trying to get closer to this idea how you do the least amount of harm, and how you have the system, the biological system, the biological underpinnings, the whole ecology of the system. How do you get that working for you so you're doing the least amount of harm and you're doing the most enhancement to that system while you're growing high quality food? Because you have to do both, right? We can't, this is not a theoretical exercise, or it's not the principal exercise that doesn't allow us to think through things and do things a certain way. We have to make a living here, and we have 80 people who are dependent upon us making good decisions and providing them with employment. So we are kind of constantly trying to find that balance where we're doing the least amount of harm, but we're getting the most potential energy, most potential contribution of a really dynamic system that is working on a lot of different levels. So how do you grow more things per acre? And that's just not the crop you're growing. It's not just the almonds, but it's the soil ecology. It's the biological diversity in your soil. It's the ecology of insects and the harvest of sunlight. How do you maximize those things and still grow crops? So that's the exciting edge. That's the question that we keep turning over. And how do we do that in a way that is sane for ourselves? So we have to live sane lives, and we should be working all the time. And decent for our employees, safe for our employees, someplace that they enjoy working because they like that environment of beauty and complexity. And they themselves have a right livelihood and are compensated fairly for what they're doing. It's still it's all an exciting and changeable set of questions and answers there that we're still pursuing, and I'm excited about it.
I'm sure like 100 years back, some farmers think of the same thing, but the part where like keep like doing the less harm kind of went back. So or just back, someone's thinking what to do more, how to grow more. But yeah, but do not like, I think now people are understanding because of all these new technologies and new information coming in, the climate change and everything. It's about time to go in the right direction where we think about. So I loved your answer in a way, like uh, keeping like in a way that there should be less harm, but we grow more, be more efficient, but not harmful. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good.
absolutely. I mean, we've had a model where we took things apart and separated pieces, and when you had pest problems, you talked to a pest control advisor and you reached for an insecticide. When you had weed problems, you found a herbicide that would work. When you thought about your market, you looked very narrowly at where, what most people are growing, and you sold to that market. And you didn't think about, how your survival is connected, interconnected, and how you can make it more of a systems approach so that soil fertility impacts plant health, which impacts insect ecology, which impacts the nutrition that you're consuming as a farmer and that your crew is taking home as food, and that impacts your consumers' relationships. So, if you can change your thinking in terms of how this is an interconnected, interwoven system that is dependent upon, kind of right ideas that you're employing as a farmer. There's a lot of kind of serendipitous things that happen if you just begin to choose that model. And there's a lot of things that you see that are just remarkable. And that's kind of what keeps this whole thing that we're doing really, really fun and stimulating. And it's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of tractors that break down, and things that need repair, and things that break, and wells that go out, or we do have all those things that we're dealing with. So it's not all Shangri-La. It's the real world trying to meet the best expression we can create for a healthy, sustainable farm.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm looking at some questions from the audience, and this one is interesting. So, do you have fields that you do experimentation on? You have a big farm. You should do. Yeah, you really do. So, do you have fields that you do experimentation on?
You mean things that we do experiment? You mean machinery, or what you mean in terms of? Yeah, I mean, we're always experimenting. We're experimenting with how much manipulation of soil that we're doing. We're experimenting with where we put our compost, and some of we're using some insect frass right now that have chitins in it, that we're looking to see whether we can stimulate a biological response in the plant to be more fungal. We're treating a lot of our seed this year with some of John Kemp's seed treatment that is supposed to stimulate the fungal community around the root zone. We always experiment with varieties, so we don't just grow the same varieties every year. We always got 3 new melons in the mix, or 5 new melons in the mix, that we're looking at and seeing whether they have better flavor and grow in our environment a little better. We're experimenting with tools. How do we till less? How do we keep our soil profile healthier? How deep do we need to go in order to loosen the soil? How can we water better and manage our water better so that we're using less water? So, I mean, it's all we don't have a program. We don't have A to B to C that a lot of, say, if you're growing corn in the Midwest and you're growing GMO corn, you basically plant it, you fertilize it, you spray it, and then hopefully that controls the weeds. That's a program. That is a 1, 2, 3 step to getting corn in the Midwest. And it's more complex than that, and I don't want to belittle that, but it's all the pieces are worked out. Here we're working out the pieces. We're trying to figure them out as we go along, but we know that some things work. We know the crop mix that we're using. We know which windows we can plant and where we'll harvest. We can predict a lot of things, but we're always experimenting.
Perfect. So there is another question here, and I like this question in a way because you're so humble. I feel like you should write a book And you said that, you should write a book. And this question is, would you want to share your knowledge through education in the future? Or do you already? So if you're not thinking of writing a book, please think. And you are there, sir. So yeah,
Well, I
you're
did agree to this interview. I've not thought of writing a book because I think it's just one of those things that there's too many other things to do, and there's a lot of wonderful books out there that I've never had time to read. So, but I do think that one of the things we try and do a lot, and as COVID ends here, starting ramping up again is having times when people can come to the farm. I mean, we really do have to make people who are intimately connected and want to support the kind of agriculture we're talking about here, and have to know why organic agriculture is important. And it goes beyond, buying something in the store. It goes beyond it goes to having a relationship and having something personal that you can go look back to. Our CSA newsletter, we have parents who say, one of the first things they do when they get their box is they'll read the newsletter in the morning and understand what they're going to have. And there's a menu in there. They'll try new things, and it becomes a practice in understanding why there's kale in the box this week, or why we have a lot of lettuce, or what happened to our almonds this year, and when we don't have any almonds because they were taken by a frost. It creates all of the important things to make people understand that food is a process that involves real people, and it's more intimate if there's hands that care about it, that are touching it and making it healthy. And that there's principles behind it. I'm not tempted to write a book. I think, but I'm really happy to talk about this at any time, because I feel like it's really important information to share.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I still have a lot of on my list, like a lot of questions on my list, but people are sending a lot of questions here, so I need to go through the question session. Okay, so I will ask this one because they both are kind of same. So, do you use compost tea on the farm? One question, and one is, do you do bee farming?
We do use some compost tea. We're not folks who brew compost tea all the time. To be honest, we had enough capital a year and a half ago to buy a compost turner. We've always had some static piles on the farm. We've not done a good job turning those with a loader, but now I was asked this morning, I went out and turned 6 different piles of compost. Some were farm waste, some were some goat head cleanings from a neighbor. But we have 6 nice piles of compost going, and I'm hoping what we can do there is really make the kind of compost I want to be applying. A lot of the compost that's on the market here in California isn't particularly good. It's green waste compost, and it is built so that the green waste comes in. These guys turn it to meet the requirements, call it compost, and they get rid of it before it's actually finished. So now we have the ability to finish the compost that we're using. And I think we'll make more tea as a result of having better compost. At least that's the steps we see. And then, do we keep bees? We do. My daughter-in-law does have some beehives here. We're in an area of California where there's so many almonds that this area gets inundated with bees after they finish harvesting or pollinating the almonds. So we have times of the year where the competition for pollen and nectar are really competing with native bees or bees that we keep here. So it's tricky. We do keep some bees, but we think that we can grow a lot of the pollinating insects that we need by managing understory and managing our fields. That's a great picture. That's actually a bamboo shoot that my grandson is purporting to be asparagus, a monster asparagus coming out of the ground. So that was
Look at the smile. The joy is there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so looking at the other questions, do you do crop rotations on your farm?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't generally plant one crop, the same crop after another. And we try and have at least one cover crop in every parcel a year. A lot of times we'll have two. We'll finish with a crop and we'll try and get a cover crop in the ground. We're planting more species diversity in all of our cover crops. We're trying to get 12 or more species of plants in that mix because there's a lot of evidence that there's a tremendous amount of benefits by diversifying your cover crop mixes. So absolutely grow cover crops and trying to get as much diversity as possible there.
Beautiful. Okay, one more question. Do you have any concerns with soil compaction on your farm?
Yeah, you always have to be concerned about compaction. We are a row crop farm, so we try and keep beds as permanent as possible, and have the tracks where the tractor travels. You always want to stay off of wet soil. We're a clay loam soil here, so compaction can be an issue. We're finding that by tilling less, we actually have a lot more biological activity there, and the soil structure changes. And so we have to be careful about our equipment going through the fields. We do have tools to open up the ground, a yeoman plow that will go through a bed and lift up that soil and aerate if we need to, trying to keep the profile intact. We understand that rain itself can create compaction. So having green plants, cover crops on top of the ground during the rainy season is really important to have the roots and the plant itself minimize the impact of rain and allow that soil to be kept open so that the water goes into the ground. So yes, we're very concerned always about, and really compaction is about having enough oxygen in the ground, and how that oxygen is part of a process where bacteria and other microbes are stimulated, the plant can respire, and so you have to kind of keep thinking about plant respiration and the ecology in and around that plant root. So yes, we always think about compaction.
Beautiful. Okay, so I have few more, and we have about 4 minutes, so I will try to cover as much as I can. So this one is: do you do mail orders?
We do some mail orders. They can look at our website and see if there are things that we will send mail orders. So check our website. Yeah.
Okay, and that's the best way to contact you is through your website, right?
That's probably the best way. Yeah.
Okay, and then this one question: what is a new tool that you have recently learned about or obtained that you recommend? This could be technology, a new piece of equipment, anything.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're trying some vertical till. We found at an auction on kind of oddball piece of vertical tillage tools that we cut down and we reconfigured in our shop. We're trying that right now to see how that will do in terms of keeping the soil profile intact and minimizing compaction of the bed top. So we're playing with that. With this last year, we bought some strip tiller units from the Midwest, and we broke down a bigger unit and made it so that we could plant 2 rows of corn on a 60-inch bed, 2 lines of corn, or 1 line of melons or whatever on a 60-inch bed. So we modified that equipment. I guess probably the most fun thing right this last few years is thinking about diversifying cover crops. And so think in terms of equipment, in terms of biological equipment, and that idea of going from what we used to be 3 or 4 species to 12 species. There's a lot of great evidence that that's a huge leap forward in cover cropping. So pay attention to that one.
Good. Okay. This one is, I think this one is from the media. How much time do you spend on your farm and your website or social media? I think
I spend most of the time out in the field and in the shop, and I'm outdoors and working with crew and supervising crew. My daughter does a lot of the website, the Instagram stuff and Facebook things, and and my wife does more time in the office doing sales, and we have a salesperson. We also have a CSA person who helps write the newsletter every week, or we write the newsletter. So I would say that my time is mostly spent on the nuts and bolts of making the farm work.
Okay. Yeah, cruise to them to basically it's a beautiful. Your Instagram is perfect. Your website is too good. So I have seen a lot of websites. So it is good, really good. Okay,
Good.
and I think that's about it on the questions from the audience. If you guys have anything else, you can just send it because we have only 1 minute. So I think I won't be taking more of your time, sir. Anything else you want to end this with, basically, any parting words from your side?
No, and thank you for your good work and for the work of the folks who are thinking about a more ecologically sound food system. We have miles to go, and there's the benefits are huge. We know the food system needs changing, and it's a life's work. And so anybody doing that work is doing good work, and they're to be congratulated. But thank you for the time and the ability to be here and share a little bit about what we're doing.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. It is a sheer honor to have you on, and I loved this thing. So I think good thing is Wayne was in bed, so I was able to
Good.
do this. Yeah,
Well, good. Yeah. When we'll
yeah,
talk to you again, I'm sure.
yeah.
So,
Thank you so much.
all
So I
right.
think
Well, you
that's
take
about
care.
it. Yeah, take care,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you so much.
Bye now.
All right. Yeah.